Hey everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw. This video is just going to be me talking to you a little bit about the new draft situation, what I think about it, and hopefully what can be done in the future to make it a little bit better. Maybe I'll have a little music behind me so it's not just so silent. It's mostly going to be me talking to you. So, if you don't like that, I'm sorry. You can hold up another phone or something next to you with Subway Surfers playing. That might help. But I want to talk about draft and what's going on in Pokemon Unite. Last night, it was announced in the most recent patch coming to the game, which should be live. Like for me, it's tonight at 11 p.m., but essentially tomorrow. We will be having a change to draft as well as some balance changes for Pokemon. Some very needed balance changes, a couple of head scratchers, but that's every patch that you ever see, right? I think the big issue that we are seeing is the change to draft. I'm going to pull that up for everybody right here. Yes. Yes, King. Here we go. The draft mode start condition change. The conditions under which draft mode begins in ranked matches. We're not ready for draft, by the way. Apparently we weren't. Has been changed. Before, it was when all 10 players were master rank 1200 or higher. Now, it is when all 10 players are master rank 1400 or higher. The reasoning behind this, from Pokemon, as the ranked match season has progressed, the number of players reaching master rank has increased. That's true. I mean, mainly because of the system they've created, but that's true. Draft mode is designed as an advanced mode for players to enjoy more strategic battles. The adjustment was made in consideration of the current player distribution to ensure that draft matchmaking aligns with its original intent. We will continue to monitor the battle environment and make adjustments as necessary. So, yeah, let's talk about this a little bit, and let's talk about the response. I want to give my response here in a second. But I want to just talk about like what I've seen from the community. If we just head over to Twitter, this is a poll I put up on Twitter. It hasn't been live that long. It's been live since like 7 a.m. And I asked, do you like the upcoming draft change for Unite? Draft will start at 1400 up from the previous 1200. Yes is 12%. No is 87.8% with 800 votes already in this poll. So I'm not saying that this is some sort of definitive poll based on the community. Also, people online love to complain, so, I do think it will naturally tend to skew towards the negative. But these are a lot of people who are relatively aware of what's going on in the game, and overwhelmingly, people don't like the change. I've got so many comments about it that are like, that they do not like it. However, you do find a few that pop up that say, I actually dislike draft. Maybe I'm the only one. It's not that there aren't people that don't agree or that don't want a change. It's just that I feel like most of the community, most of the most dedicated part of the community does not like this change. I even notice as look, all my mentions are, I think draft should be in all games. I would prefer draft in every rank. Just like on and on and on about how many people would like draft. And I don't want to play ranked anymore. It keeps going. Even there was someone who even commented that they didn't like draft. And their reasoning, I think, is totally legitimate. This is something I talked about when draft was first coming to the game. They said, gonna take some heat here, but F draft maybe helps your win rate by 1% in the long run, but the endless amount of disconnects it causes is unbearable. 5 minutes into a DC, back into the lobby, into another team DC, legit have multiple accounts to avoid draft games. So I fully understand where that player is coming from. That is an issue that the devs should be handling. They should have the draft mode and the game stable enough where you go through draft and you don't have all of these remakes. It's a real problem. And a player could intentionally just AFK it if they don't like their draft and they're not punished at all. Another thing I talked about in my video a while back, we're not ready for draft. Yet, here we are. Some players don't like it because of these things that are frustrating parts of the game and should be fixed. I just responded, it's not that you don't like draft, it's you don't like a system with a ton of game crashes that causes remakes. Which is true. I totally get that. If you even look at the post from Japan, I always wonder what the different regions are feeling with this. It is almost universally not liked. Why lower it to 1200 due to so many requests? They should just honestly write, the highly anticipated new money-making powerhouse Pokemon ended up being unusable due to a ban, causing sales to fall short of expectations. So we raised the conditions for draft. I'll talk about that here in a minute. I'll talk about that here in a second because it's a very reasonable argument that people would make. There was another poll, and I'm not finding it this second. There was another poll just done in Japan that had like 2,500 votes on it. Yeah, right here. About this update. Are you satisfied, dissatisfied, neither agree nor disagree? 73%, 2,700 votes were dissatisfied with this change. And that is their biggest region. That's their biggest market for this game. So, going back to this, let me take this draft announcement here point by point, and I'm going to assume what they are saying is true because I don't want to just make videos where I'm like railing and complaining and freaking out. There's probably great content out there for that. I find the internet's full of it. I'm going to try to make something constructive and talk about what they are saying here and give my hopefully very reasonable take and what I would like to see happen. As the ranked match season has progressed, the number of players reaching master rank has increased. Yes, this is correct. The way they have the system in the game, when you reach master rank the next season, you go down to ultra. That coupled with performance points, rank protection cards, and on and on and on, you know, AFKs and crashes and things like that, has created a system where every single player, simply by playing long enough, will get to master rank, even with an abysmal record, like fully trolling their games. They could set their controller down half of the match and they will make it to master rank. That is how this system is set up. So yes, it's true that as the ranked seasons progressed, more players reach master rank, and essentially what they have now is just a giant pool of players all in one big, it's like one big community pool. And there are some people who want to swim in the deep end or are great swimmers, and there are some people who just want to hang out by the side and they can't really swim. They're all in the same pool and they need to compete in a swimming competition on teams together. Draft mode is designed as an advanced mode for players who enjoy more strategic battles. Sure, that's true. I would argue, personally, that is what ranked is in just about every game. Like, that's what ranked is. A more advanced mode for players to enjoy more strategic battles. I don't think that means that ranked has to necessarily mirror one-to-one the championship series or something like that, but the draft mode we had in ranked, I thought it was actually really good. The change they recently made where it's 3 blind bans, you could easily ban out some of the problem Pokemon. That seems very reasonable to me. This adjustment was made in consideration of the current player distribution to ensure that draft matchmaking aligns with the original intent. I'm not trying to be snarky here, but I guess I'm being a little snarky when I say this. The original intent of draft isn't the Constitution. It's okay if the original intent of draft was for a more strategic experience, and we're like, well, yeah, but now it's actually a better experience for most all those involved. And we should bring players up to the level of this in ranked instead of nerf the ranked experience. We will continue to monitor the battle environment and make adjustments as necessary. Well, I hope that's true. I hope that's true because I would like them to make adjustments. And I kind of do think they're necessary. I mean, let's talk about one thing that was brought up here and one of the clearest issues with draft being taken away. I'm going to take you over to the ban rates right now. These are the top 10,000 players, but it would be pretty similar across the board for anyone who has like even a basic understanding of the game. Last week, Charizard's win rate was 55.35%. Not like the most absurd thing ever, but Charizard is relatively absurd. Lucario's win rate was 53. These are Mega. Mega Lucario's win rate was 53.34, and on and on and on. You have a handful of Pokemon doing pretty well, and a lot of Pokemon doing not so well, but there's a ton of Pokemon in the game. I don't expect everything to be at 50%. That's an unrealistic utopian situation that it doesn't exist in any video game ever. And I think things should have seasons where they're good and seasons where they're bad. That's actually totally fine in a live service game. If we look at the ban rates here, pick rates, top is Lucario, next is Charizard, then Latias Darkrai. If we look at the ban rates, Charizard, 172%. What does that mean? That means that when two teams are going to ban this, it's banned by 1.7 of the teams. That means it's almost banned every single game, right? But many games, it's banned by both teams. Mega Lucario is closer to one of the teams banning at 123%, and Darkrai is often banned by one of the teams at 101%. So these are the ban rates in the game currently. If you just take a look at the ban rates in the game currently, and you take a look at the change to draft, you can draw a very reasonable not comparison isn't the right way to say this. You can make a very reasonable argument that regardless of your intent with matchmaking and your intent of saying the adjustment is being made with the current player distribution, I believe that is all true, that all players are sitting in the same spot and they want draft to be more strategic. You can make that argument, but what I will say to that is, regardless of your intent in this situation, what this will do is it will guarantee more unbalanced games. It will guarantee more games in Master Rank with Pokemon that are overpowered. I don't know if the Pokemon are intentionally overpowered or not. I can tell you this, Charizard has been overpowered since it dropped, and it has no changes made to it. And it is finally getting some changes this week, right at the time when players would be, players have already unlocked it, but right at the time when a ton of players would have essentially unlocked it for free or could buy it with coins. I'm not saying that means that is intentionally what they did with Charizard. This could be intentional, this could be negligence, this could be ignorance, this could be a lot of different things, right? However, regardless of what it was, I'm just telling you what did happen. What did happen is the Pokemon was unbelievably powerful, like ludicrously strong. You really want to ban it in your games. It had a release and it encountered draft and was banned out a ton. So was Lucario, Mega Lucario, and so was Darkrai, the current Battle Pass Pokemon. So you have these Pokemon that are overpowered to varying degrees. Charizard being the worst, Mega Lucario being pretty dang overpowered, and Darkrai being like overpowered but kind of like maybe not an unreasonable threat. It's a 51% win rate, right? It is overpowered, don't get me wrong, but it's not like Mega Charizard overpowered. So you have three Pokemon that are all making the game money, that are overpowered, and all of them are interacting with the game's ban system, and because of that, you could see people buying them less, right? I think that's probably reasonable. I think when some people look to get a new Pokemon that releases, a few things pop in their mind. One, is this my favorite thing ever, or is a Pokemon I really like? If that's the case, they're probably going to check it out. Two, is this thing really good? And then on top of, is this really good, is it broken? That's another category, because there are people who do not care about balance in the game. They honestly want to play, like we saw with Mewtwo and things like that. They want to play the most broken thing, the cheesiest thing. They do not care. They only care about winning. And they also don't often win as much unless they're playing something broken, you know? They're not having great games on even like Mystical Fire Delphox or Zarina or something like that. Even though these are great Pokemon, they're not really having great games on things that aren't sort of simple and really good. Way too good. So what do you do here? I think this is the question, like, at the end of it. I can't tell you whether or not this is a pay-to-win strategy, or this is just like not balancing quick enough. Like, Empoleon was balanced very, very quickly, but it was still kind of broken. Palmot released terribly, and then it was balanced, and it still never really got to the heights of being broken. So they've had a history of balancing things poorly, but they've also had a history of things that are sort of special being broken. And the Megas seem to be falling in this line of special things that are broken. And if special things are broken, and you have to pay money to unlock these things, and by the time they are unlocked for most of the player base, they are now no longer paid. Like, now that you balance them at that point, it is directly paying for an advantage. And if you are taking away a system where you can ban these things out in a competitive setting. Also, by the way, draft is just great because The team comps are interesting. It doesn't mean your allies are going to make good choices, but the games are way better in draft than they are blind. But now that you've put them in that situation, you have decided that one of the things you're going to do next season, or not next season, mid-season, is change it so draft happens less. Well, regardless of your intent, Unite, I'll take your intent fully at face value. You think everyone's kind of in the same thing. That's a whole other can of worms that you need to figure out. Everyone's in the same pool, and there are a lot of different players, and you have to address all of their sort of feelings as best as possible. And you have a lot of these lower skill players that will hang out around 1200 or so. They lose a lot, they win a few, and they want to play some of these Pokemon, and now they don't even get a chance to. So they finally have started like winning a little bit. They've got to master rank, and they don't get to play any of the Pokemon that they signed up for. Well, they're probably not going to buy the next thing. I think that is a totally fair reality, and you want to address that. Then you have these players who are more competitive, and they want a ranked system and a draft system, and you have to address that too. And since we threw away essentially the ranked system in the game, and beginner and vet and ultra, we no longer have master as the top rank. We have master and then tiers within master, right? So you've said that a certain tier of master is more serious. These players can have draft if 10 of them are all together on both sides, which I honestly think, given how games are paired lately, like this is basically saying in solo queue, draft is going to be almost non-existent moving forward. That's really what it feels like. Regardless of your intent, you create a system where more often the matches are more unbalanced. Not better. The matches are more unbalanced more often. That is the system that you have created. So if your intent is for higher ranks to have more strategic games, I get it. But the unintended consequence of your good intent to have more strategic games at higher levels is the games at lower levels are worse. They're worse quality games. They are games where people are just cheesing the most broken thing inside the game. And as players will climb up through that system, they are experiencing worse and worse quality games where people are literally going Mega Char, Comfey, Mega Lucario. You're getting people over and over and over again cheesing the most broken things. So I said that I would talk a little bit about what the solutions to this are. Let me talk about them, because I think intentionally or not, what you've created is a system where lower ranks are just going to be flooded with the most broken thing. When you have a release in Unite, the release needs to be powerful and good to the level of great, but not so great that it always earns an insta ban. That is your job as a developer. If you want these Pokemon that are new and exciting to make their way into all of the games, which I do too, by the way, you want them to be really, really good, but not so good compared to the rest of the roster that they are the only thing you ban. You want other things to be on the chopping block for bans. There is a way to do it, but it means that Mega Charizard has to be about as powerful as a few of the other like top 15 Pokemon. You have to go, here are the top 15 Pokemon, and Mega Char's got to be really good, but not in an entire other galaxy. You have to do that. Otherwise, people will ban it. The next thing is that you have to create a system where the newest release always isn't so broken that people ban it without thinking. A lot of them are going to be banned regardless because it's the new thing and people are scared of it. But if you want the newest release not to be banned, you have to have a track record of not releasing uber broken Pokemon over and over and over again. It can't be something you do, because the more you do it, the more players will recognize that that's a pattern. And right now we are fully in that pattern, by the way. The last few releases are insane. Empoleon, Mega Luca, Mega Char. These things are the level of power of Empoleon was criminal. I don't know who approved that, but whoever they are, they're out of their mind. And Mega Luca is insanely good, and Mega Char is unbelievably broken. So if you want people to not insta-ban these things, you have to not make them so broken. You have to make them really good, but you also have to have a lot of other really good options in the game. And then finally, you have to make draft better. You do, because you are going to get people who simply don't want to engage in draft, and you probably get feedback around that. I don't believe it's a lie that you guys get feedback saying, oh, I don't like draft or something. I bet you do. And one of the biggest reasons is it's not optimized, it's clunky, and it creates crashes. So if you can solve that, and you can solve releasing Pokemon that are too strong, you don't need to change things with draft. I know that the situation we're in front of is simpler. It's a simpler change. Now people will be able to play the new releases more, not even more likely, like it'll be phenomenally more likely that you will play a new release, and whether they're broken or not, they will make their way into games, which I think is a good thing to see new releases in games. You don't want new releases to be bad, and you do want to see them in matches. Some player might be waiting for Vaporeon to come out, and that's the whole reason they want to play Unite. So they should be able to play it. But if you make it that broken that it gets banned, that's why they don't get to play it. I know the reality we're in right now is draft is being increased from 1,200 to 1,400. And again, regardless of intent, what will happen is a broken thing will be spammed in games more often, making the games worse. So I would encourage the devs, I would encourage you to do the difficult thing and make the releases less broken, make draft better, and give people reasons that they aren't necessarily banning out some of these new Pokemon, so people support the game financially, which I agree, people need to support the game financially. It's a free-to-play game. But it's not just people who are supporting the game financially so they can cheese the most broken thing that exists. It's people supporting the game because they like this Pokemon, they want to play the new thing, and they genuinely have an enjoyable experience playing this game. I've rambled on for a while, but I said I was going to make a video talking about it. I've said like many times we're not ready for draft before draft was implemented because I knew that some of these issues were going to rear their head. And I also think now that we're sort of back in this, some of these Pokemon on release are broken era, it's really disheartening to see draft rules change because it's one of our only ways, especially as a solo player, to combat bad balance. There you go. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I love you guys. I'll be on at some point with the new patch, and then of course with Delmise, where I'll get it every game. All right, goodbye. We did it.